Hello again, academic English students, and welcome back. We are going to learn this time a bit about cause and effect essays. We've studied about paragraphs, we've learned a couple of types of paragraphs, and now we're moving into essays. And the first kind, like I said, is a cause and effect essay. Now, cause and effect essays obviously have two parts. The cause part deals with why. Why did something happen? What are the reasons something happened? What are the factors that led to it? And of course, effects. Now, effects are the results. What happened after the event? And cause and effect essays can deal with causes, effects, or both. We're going to think of look at a very simple issue and the causes and effects. Now, our issue is failing a physics midterm. So the statement is, I just failed my physics midterm. I hope that didn't happen to you, but sometimes it happens. And the causes, take a look at our list. Well, I didn't study, I didn't do my homework, I didn't ask the teacher for help, I don't like physics, all causes. And there are several effects. For example, a low grade in the class, feeling upset or angry or sad or depressed, fear of failing the class, and then some possible effects. We might lose our scholarship, we might have to retake the class, both things that we prefer not to happen. Now, we're going to examine in this video lecture a more complicated issue. This comes from a report from the Kazakhstan government, and according to a survey conducted by the Kazakhstan Ministry of Internal Affairs, over 52% of women reported some form of domestic abuse. Now, domestic abuse means abuse in the family or in the home, and it can be physical, verbal, or sexual violence. Usually husband to wife, but it could be husband to children, or father to children, or boyfriend to girlfriend, something like that. Now, this is an issue with a lot of causes and a lot of effects. And if we are going to examine both of those, we would start by making a list of the causes and effects that we can think of. So, what I would like you to do is to think for a bit and consider for a bit and write your own lists. I will show you my list, but I want you to think for yourself for a couple of minutes. So I'd like you to pause the video and write down a few causes and a few effects. Alright, let's take a look at my list here. Causes, I found 4, I'm sure there are more. The first one, a belief that beating your wife or abusing someone is acceptable. That means okay or normal. Second one is police and the government do little to stop it. They don't do very much to stop this situation. The third one is that boys and men, young men too, are not taught how to respect and love women. And finally, very few role models. A role model is like an example. So sometimes we're just not shown an example of how to properly treat someone. And a list of effects. Now, first of all, a loss of love and trust. If someone beats you or hurts you, it's very difficult to love or trust that person. Secondly, children learn that abuse is acceptable. If we watch it happen, then a lot of times we think it's okay. If we see our parents do it, children tend to imitate or mimic their parents. The third part is physical, mental, or emotional harm. There are a lot of different effects on the body and on the soul and the mind. And of course, separation or divorce is common because of domestic abuse. All right. Now, if we're going to write an essay, a cause and effect essay, we need to think about the scope of our essay. Now, scope means what we will and what we won't write about. It's kind of like the size of our essay. And to determine the scope, we have to think about our limitations. For example, how much time do I have? Do I have 50 minutes? Do I have an hour? Do I have as long as I want? If I have as long as I want, then maybe I can write more. But if I have a limited amount of time, then we have to decide what we can write in that limited amount of time. We can't say everything we want to say, perhaps. The other thing that helps us know our scope is how long should the essay be? What did your teacher tell you? And finally, we need to look carefully at the essay prompt, that is the essay task. What exactly is that essay task asking for? And that will tell us how much we need to write, if it's asking for a little or if it's asking for a lot. Now, for our class, on the final exam, you'll have 50 minutes to write an essay. And that essay should be 4 or 5 paragraphs. So that tells you you don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of space. So your essay cannot be hugely long or maybe even hugely detailed. And as always, like I said before, read the task carefully because you absolutely need to do what the task says. Alright, so when we are doing a cause and effect essay, we need to start off with a thesis statement. When we're thinking about what we want to say, the thesis statement is that one sentence or maybe 2 sentences that provides a very clear opinion about the topic. And that sentence becomes the main idea or the heart of our essay. And we need to make sure that our thesis statement completely and accurately answers the prompt, the essay task. If our thesis statement is kind of going off in one direction or the other and not answering the task, then we need to change that thesis statement. And the thesis statement needs to provide focus for the essay. If I read your thesis statement, I should know what you're focusing on. So let's take a look at an easy cause and effect essay prompt or essay task. It says, discuss the reasons for failing your physics midterm as well as the consequences. Now, when we read an essay task or prompt, we need to think about this. Is it asking me to write about the causes, the effects, or both? Now take a close look at this essay prompt and try to think, is this asking me for causes, effects, or both? And if you look through, we have the word reasons, which is similar to causes, and then we have consequences, which is like results or effects. So this task is asking for both. Now, we know that our essays in this class will usually be 4 or 5 paragraphs, and we know that we need to write a thesis statement. Now, I wrote a simple thesis statement here. You'll notice that this thesis statement has 2 sentences. I failed my physics midterm because of poor study habits and a bad attitude toward the subject. As a result, I face serious academic consequences. Now, this thesis statement is not bad. It does cover all of the prompt because the prompt asked for both causes and effects, and this thesis statement has both. Now, if you look here, you'll notice that I rewrote my thesis statement because even though 2 sentences is okay, I would prefer that the thesis statement is 1 sentence. So I tried to combine those ideas into 1 sentence. So I rewrote my sentence because I thought it would be better this way. So we have the old one and the new one. The revised one says, I failed my physics midterm mostly because of poor study habits, resulting in serious academic consequences, such as possibly retaking the course. So I condensed some of the ideas and actually removed a few words, and I think this is a better thesis statement. I would encourage you, after you write your thesis statement, take a look at it, think about it, and if you need to change it, go ahead and change it, because that thesis statement is very important. Now, how can we organize this cause and effect essay? Well, I think a simple way to do it with a 4 or 5 paragraph essay is to have one paragraph as the introduction, which we always have. Our second paragraph would be the causes, and the third paragraph would be the effects, and then a conclusion. Now let's think about our more complicated topic about domestic abuse. I wrote a thesis statement for this also. This one has 2 sentences again. There are a combination of factors that lead to a high rate of domestic abuse. These include the belief that abuse is normal and acceptable, haphazard enforcement of the law, and a lack of alternative role models. Now you'll notice here that this topic is asking only for causes. This is why it's important to read the essay prompt, the essay task, carefully. Because in this essay, we only need to talk about the causes. If the essay topic asked for both causes and effects, then of course we would do both. But right now, it only asks for causes, so only write about the causes. It's very important, I keep stressing this, to read the task carefully. And honestly, this is such a big topic that I don't think we could explore or write about this topic in 4 or 5 paragraphs if we had to do both causes and effects. This is a very big topic. So causes is more reasonable and doable. Now I wrote that thesis statement, but I didn't like it very much because it was too long again. So I rewrote it. If you look at the bottom of the screen, it says revised thesis statement. And here is my hopefully better thesis statement. A combination of ingrained attitudes toward women, haphazard enforcement of the law, and a lack of alternative role models lead to a high rate of domestic abuse. Now, I know that's a big sentence, and maybe you can't write a sentence quite like that. But what I do want you to notice is that in this thesis statement, I have basically 3 causes. The first one is attitudes toward women. The next one is about law enforcement. And the third one is about role models. So how are we going to organize this essay? Now this one, I'm going to make 5 paragraphs. Once again, we have an introduction, put that nice thesis statement in there somewhere, probably at the end. And we have 3 causes, and those are going to form 3 separate paragraphs. Cause number 1, cause number 2, cause number 3. And I have them there on the screen for you. This is probably the easiest way to organize it. There are a few other ways to organize cause and effect essays, which I'll go over in a second. All right, but let's look at other ways to organize a cause and effect essay. Now, we can organize them chronologically. That means order of time, first to last, last to first. We could organize our causes in the order of importance, the least to the greatest, or the greatest to the least. Or we could put our causes into categories, and that's basically what I did. My categories were, I think, attitudes, law, and role models. Those are roughly categories, I guess. Some more beautiful categories, I guess, would be social, economic, political, men, women, children. There are lots of different categories you can put your causes into, and it depends on the topic. So you have to think carefully about how these categories might help you organize your essay. All right. Are you ready for your assignment? Now, we've thought a little bit about domestic abuse already, and I'm going to have you continue in that subject. And the assignment I'm giving you is to write an essay describing the main effects of domestic abuse. Your essay should be 4 to 5 paragraphs. Remember, we need to think about the topic, the prompt. Does it ask us for causes, effects, or both? Now, it's pretty obvious that this one asks only for effects, which means only write about effects. It's pretty simple, but some people forget. And you also need to think about how much time do you have. Now this is a homework assignment, so you can take as little time as you want or as much time as you want. Remember though that on the final exam you'll have only 50 minutes. Now how long should this essay be? Once again, 4 or 5 paragraphs is good enough for this class. And another thing I want you to think about when you're writing a cause and effect essay, in this case effects, is try to distinguish between major and minor effects. You'll notice that this prompt asks you for the main effects. That's the major effects, the most important effects. There might be 100 effects, but we want to only talk about the most important. So as you're brainstorming and thinking, try to distinguish between effects that are maybe not as big of a deal and effects that are a big deal. And of course, I want you to write a thesis statement that captures the main idea that you want to say. Now, this thesis statement will be your opinion because there is some disagreement about the effects of domestic abuse. However, many people might agree with you, which is okay. All right, and then you need to think about how you want to organize your essay. Will you organize your effects like maybe political effects, social effects, economic effects? You can organize it effects on children, effects on women, effects on men. Those are just a couple of options. Or you could do effects in the school, effects at home, effects at work. There are many different ways you can organize it. All right, so I'd like you to go ahead and write this essay, and I hope you do well. I'll see you in class.